Welcome to the Dead Bedroom Revival Podcast. My name is Curry, your host, and I'm very excited to be making this episode. I'm wondering whether you had an amazing weekend. I had an amazing weekend. When I say amazing, I say it with the most sarcastic tone I can muster because I was doing some decorating and I absolutely do not like decorating. But it has to be done because we are hosting Christmas. So looking forward to having a really nice kitchen and also having our guests feel comfortable within our house. So I don't even know if it's for my guests that are coming to feel comfortable, or more so for my wife not to feel embarrassed by, or at least feel house shame. So I think that's the real thing that's there. So, but anyways, enough about me and about my decorating vows. I'm really excited to be making this episode because we have been taking a few clients through a framework and we've called it behavioral sexual dynamic response. So that's a mouthful, but I think we'll probably rename it or rebrand it once we find a much easier way of defining it. But basically it's really going back to what I talk about often. Most people wonder why they're in a sexless relationship. Generally, they think it's because they've put on weight and therefore their partner does not find them sexy, which is absolutely not true. A lot of it is to do with behaviors and yes, habits. And some of those habits include working out and being healthy. Yes, they play a large factor because being healthy means that you've got healthy hormones, you've got a healthy mind in terms of your confidence, and also having a good amount of self-worth. So there is a little bit of truth to it about your body, but it's not the be all and end all. I think that usually plays at least 5% or even less of, and then there's like a whole 95% that is to do with other behaviors and other habits. And really what you're trying to do with those behaviors and habits is really to try and free your mind so you can be so strong and mentally strong in yourself and within the relationship. So again, this is one of those things that is most people do not think about this. They obviously sometimes just point the finger and say, well, we're not having sex because you don't have libido, so it's got nothing to do with me. But I think it takes two people to get into a sexless relationship. So I think when you look at it from that basis, it gives you an opportunity to actually make lasting change. And when it comes to behavioral dynamic response, it means that you have to start seeing sexuality as fluid, and that most people respond to it in different ways. So most people respond to it via situation, and some people respond to it via stimulation. So again, when you look at it from that standpoint, it then changes the way you view your partner. And if you start looking back to when things were hot and heavy, for instance, you can actually start retracing and seeing whether it was situational or it was something that you stimulated them into getting into that point where they're feeling that they want to have sex. So, and again, this idea comes from a book I was reading called Persuasion by Charles Cialdini, and it talks about the example they gave similar to this was they put out these guys, really handsome guys, attractive looking, and then their mission was to stop girls and then talk to them. And then it was just in a mall, so they just stopped them on a random mall, and they started trying to talk to them and try to get the number. And it turned out that only like 20% of the women said yes. So most of the times they were getting, I'm busy, I got a boyfriend, and so on and so forth. And they did the same thing, and this time they specifically chose to be in front of a flower shop. So they had red roses out there, and they'd, things that would indicate love. So the same sort of guys went and then started going through the ladies that they were talking to. And from that same mall, in that same environment, they managed to get 80% success. So meaning that they increased the success based on the environment that they were in. So the fact that there was what's the signals for romance it changed the way the women viewed the guys, and it was more of the stimulation of, oh wow, this is romantic, and it just evoked those feelings that created that environment. So this is very important, because when you are with somebody who, for instance, they are situational, and then you are trying to stimulate them, mentally or physically, this becomes a mismatch of languages. It's almost like one is speaking French, and the other one is speaking English, like completely different languages. So this is why it becomes important to actually start really, because most people, they and I've been guilty of this myself, that if you suffer rejection, you take it personally, and then you sort of just self-destruct. This is why it's important that you don't just self-destruct, you actually start breaking down what's really happened. So this, my leading into this seduction, what was the lead up to it, and why because if I'm trying to stimulate them physically and it's not working, possibly I haven't done enough, because again, you can do dual of them. So you could stimulate the environment, get the environment to be conducive for you to stimulate them, and then also do the physical side. So there is sort of things that you can do in order to start changing your sexless relationship. But the one thing that I noticed that with many people, except of the guys that we've taken through this, they look at this situation, and when it's time to work on it, they are not willing to do the work, because they've been sort of rejected so many times that it makes them not want to put themselves out there. But credit to these guys, they put themselves out there and still suffered some rejection, but because they understood that it was a journey. Now, this is important, because I remember once when I was building a chicken coop, and I remember my granddad told me to go and do this thing. He sort of gave me some instructions: get some wood, cut it this way, and once you finish, put some wire around it. And when my granddad came back, he was like, "Oh my God, what have you done? This is absolutely horrendous." And I remember then having to take it all down, take all the nails off, and then restarting again. And my granddad was trying to teach me a real important life lesson here. And again, went through the process of trying to fix it, and then built this thing. He came back and he goes, "Oh, this is not good. You haven't done it right." So he explained to me again what I needed to do. And it took me about at least 6 or 7 times of us doing this little dance. But eventually came back and went, wow, this is exactly what I want. And I remember what was more amazing about it is that he went on to every friend that he met, every person that he spoke to. He was just talking about how I built him this amazing thing. And it brought so much confidence in myself. And what I'm trying to point out here is, like, within your relationship, resolving this is going to suck, because you are going to fail, you are going to get rejected, but the important part is that you have to keep at it, and you have to just keep at building the skill, building the knowledge, especially when it comes to understanding what has changed within your partner, and especially on the mental side. What's changed in her, and how can I stimulate, or at least create a response sexually from her, and what sort of environments does that? Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it environmental? There's all sorts of parts that create that sexual desire, and then from that desire, you then, in fun zone. So I can't really teach you all of this in this episode. You guys should know that by now. And you guys can go to www.deadbedroomrevival.com, where you'll be able to get a link to a Facebook group, and then that Facebook group will be able to teach you more of this amazing stuff. Because really excited, we begin to see some client successes, and I'm looking forward to start taking more testimonials, so you guys can start seeing the impact that our work is doing. And we're really, really grateful and really humbled by the response that you guys have been giving us as well. So thank you very much. I'll be seeing you very soon. Take care. Bye.